So first, let's start with town planning and structures. Now, every time we discuss Indus Valley civilization, we always talk about its great town planning and its impressive town planning, which was much ahead of its times when it comes to the town planning of the other contemporary civilizations. So let's come to the Indus Valley one. The Harappan culture was distinguished by its system of town planning, where we had a system of citadels or acropolis, which was possibly occupied by the members of the ruling class, which we have studied in class as well. But let me tell you one thing, and that is when we talk about a certain section, the affluent or the rich section of the society living in a citadel, or the raised part of the town, and the normal people and the ordinary people living at the lower parts of town, this is not unique to Indus Valley civilization at all. Even today, if you go to the modern Greece, that is Athens, you have this acropolis, where even in the ancient Greek culture and the Greek civilization, the rich people and the affluent and the ruling class used to live at the higher section of Athens, and the ordinary people would be living in the lower sections of the town. And the remarkable thing about our system is, again, something which we discussed in class, was the grid system, where things are interlocking, the streets are interlocking, the homes are interlocking at almost like right angles. Right now, this was something which was quite unique, because as we would see later in the videos, that the other contemporary civilizations did not follow the grid system at all. They had a very different kind of system when it came to Mesopotamia, or where it came to the Sumerians and the Syrians. They had entirely a different kind of structure altogether. But then one thing very impressive about, again, Indus Valley civilization was a great amount of fineness and a great amount of finesse when it came to the construction of bricks, because we had perfected the art or the technique of burning the bricks. Today it is considered to be, as a matter of fact, thing that you fire your bricks. But in the earlier times, it was not, because many of the civilizations still depended on the sun-dried or the sun-burnt bricks, not artificially burning it and in the right temperature in a kiln or in a furnace and then using it for your construction. And even if the certain civilizations did, it was not for usually for building or for residences. It was mainly for the areas where you actually needed burnt bricks, because there was a lot of water involved, like drainage or bathroom. Those were the public baths. These were the only areas where the burnt bricks were used. But in Indus Valley civilization, many of the sites which you find today, even the homes are burnt brick. Okay. Yes. And then after the burnt bricks, then we also have, we often talk about the drainage system of Mohenjo-daro, which was very, very impressive. And then we have in certain towns like Kalibangan, where most of the homes had their own private wells. And the sites like Dholavira and Lothal, entire settlement was fortified, and even the sections within the town had separate walls. Now, it could be, you could construe it as something like sophistication of civil and town planning, but it could also be, probably they wanted a great amount of privacy, because as we have seen this in chapter, that it appears that people of Indus Valley civilization liked and loved their privacy, the way the doors have been constructed, the windows or the lack of it, everything pointing towards the fact that they were very private people. They didn't want to poke their nose into the others' affairs, and neither they appreciated others poking nose into their affairs. Now, let's come to agriculture. Now, like all the ancient civilizations, whether you talk about civilizations which developed in South America, developed around the river Amazon, like it happened in Egypt, it developed around river Nile. Then when you talk about China, it happened to develop around river Yellow Sea and the river Huangho. Then when you talk about your own Mesopotamian civilization, that is not own, but then the next door neighbor Mesopotamian civilization, it was again around Euphrates and Tigris. So Harappan Valley civilization again developed mainly almost all the settlements developed around rivers. Okay, today you know those sites might be in the dry lands, but then it could also, because those rivers don't flow there anymore because of drought and certain shift in the river flow and the direction of the river. But then yes, all of them evolved and developed around rivers. And agriculture, we had wheat, then we had barley, rye, peas, sesame, lentil, mustard, everything that we use in our kitchens and in our households, even today in all parts of India. Okay, but yes, there's one thing that we use today, which is there in our kitchens, but was not much in use, appears, then that thing was rice. Indus Valley civilization, almost very rare. I think there's only one site where the evidence of rice was traced. Okay, but yes, we were one of the first civilizations to start producing cotton. Yeah, students, you might have the evidence or the trace of what particular grain or lentil. Lentil would mean, things like dal that we use, were being used. But it is very difficult for any, when you are researching about ancient civilizations, to consult the actual agricultural practices as to how you used to make the food out of those grains. What was the food that you ate? Like today, we know that yes, we make roti or the chapati out of wheat, and we do certain things out of wheat, we do certain things out of rice, and we are aware of those things. But then that kind of knowledge has not been there with us. Now, then there is, of course, the representation on seals and terracotta structures, which indicate that the bull was very much known, and it is one of the very popular animals when it came to Indus Valley civilization. Whenever people wanted to make terracotta sculpture, bull was one of the very popular choices, and oxen, bull and oxen, they were very popular choices. Now, horse is quite, this is what is unique about, is that the use of horse and the prevalence of horse has not been mentioned much in our civilization. It could also be because of the fact that in those areas the horses were not of the top quality, and that is why it was the ox or the bull that was being used more for agriculture and not horses. Because you have to understand that there are certain civilizations around the world which at that point in time they used horses very extensively when it came to plowing their fields. Something that we don't see today. Even today, I have never in my life I have seen in any village of India where the horses are being used for plowing the fields. I wonder if you have seen it. So it was the same story even thousands of years ago. Indians, or rather the people of Indus Valley civilization, they were kind of happy with the bulls and not the horses, because can anyone tell me, or rather can you think as to why this reason was? Because one of the very important reason is that it is very difficult to actually tie your plow to the horse. Bull, because of its natural body shape, where you have a hump on its back, which facilitates you to actually have a grip on the plow. But horses, they don't allow that. Okay, in fact, slightly, a trivia kind of, an extra piece of information rather. Horses, Chinese were the experts It was the Chinese who first brought about. If you remember, in class 11, you had studied about the size or the small horses and the mules which was used by the Genghis Khan's army, which had a lot of stamina, a lot of strength, though they were not, as majestic in their looks, but they were very sturdy animals. So China had those kind of horses, and the Chinese had developed not a particular kind of a sophisticated plow, but a harness which could be tied to the horse, and that harness helped you to tie your plow to the horse.